Welcome to Opposition Territory here at the Philadelphia Sports Table Podcast Show, the longest running weekly Philly sports podcast show in the world, 12 years strong. And it is great to have on our Opposition Territory podcast to get into the New York Giants, a division rival of the Philadelphia Eagles from BigBlueView.com. You know, we love our SB Nation sites. Chris Pflum, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, buddy. I'm really interested to see where the Giants are going to continue to go this coming offseason. Again, as a division rival of the Philadelphia Eagles, I think there's a lot of interesting storylines going on within this Giants organization and the team in general as well. And I'd really love to get into some of these discussion points here with you. But first, can you tell everybody where they can find you, whether it's on social media, on the interwebs out there? Let folks know where they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, you can find my work all over Big Blue View, putting up scouting reports every single day. Actually, from here on out until the draft, at least
Nice.
twice a day.
Nice.
And then I am on, well, technically I'm on Twitter, but I'm pretty much always on Blue Sky anymore.
There you go.
At Raptor Mark II. See right there, at Raptor MKII. Pretty easy to find. I'm always writing under my own name, so you can just search Chris Pflum.
Awesome. Yes, great writer again over at BigBlueView.com. And to get into the storylines that we've been following with this New York Giants team here, Chris, a lot of talk about Giants GM Joe Schoen and how intentional or unintentional he has been this offseason. If you talk to certain New York Giants fans, they'll give you both sides of the equation. Some are saying that he's making roster moves simply to keep his job. Some are saying that he's been doing a good job at helping to build for the future. I'm wondering, what do you make of this narrative when it comes to Joe Schoen? And also, what grade would you give the Giants offseason, the front office so far this year, and why?
Okay, well, I personally am in the camp that he has done a good job this year. I think he has been very intentional in how he's gone about his moves in building the team, plugging the various holes in the roster that were really a problem last couple years. And I do think he is building for the future, but also acquiring talent that can help right now. I think as far as him being on the hot seat, he and Brian Daboll absolutely are. But I also
we're going to get to Brian Daboll in a bit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, there's a lot going on there. But I do believe this is kind of a case of what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Yeah.
His best path to saving his job is to help the team win, to help the team improve. And I really feel like he has done that so far this year. Within the context of the draft not being over with yet, I would give him overall at least a solid B+ on what he has done so far. I will go so far as to say an A, because we don't know what Russell Wilson's going to do at quarterback. We don't know how some of these young pieces it's all going to fit together, and obviously the draft is the keystone to it all.
Yeah, absolutely it is. And the real question as we're moving along with the conversation here is, who will the Giants take with the number 3 overall pick heading into this NFL draft? I mean, a quarterback, even though they do have Russell Wilson, and they do have some depth now at quarterback, seems to be likely, but this is a team that has a lot of needs for the future, Chris, especially from a pass rusher standpoint. As a huge Penn State fan myself, I've been thinking a lot, boy, if the Giants end up drafting Abdul Carter, I'm absolutely going to cry, because I have seen this time and time. I remember Sean Lee getting drafted by the Dallas Cowboys, and then Micah Parsons getting drafted by the Dallas Cowboys. And then Saquon Barkley getting drafted by the New York Giants. Thankfully, he is now in the Philadelphia Eagles doing a damn good job. But I just can't take my Penn State brethren and having them go to other places in the NFC East. But I do wonder, what direction do you hope the Giants are going to go with that number 3 overall pick in just about a week here?
Yeah. I'm going to preface this by saying that anyone who says they know what the Giants are going to do
right
is blowing smoke.
Right.
There's probably about 10 people right now who have even an inkling of what the Giants are going to do, and they're all within the building, and I don't think they're talking to anybody right
Right. Right.
now. I think the Giants really are one of the true wild cards in this upcoming draft. Yeah, I think when you listen to some of the national level insiders, everybody is asking them, and they're saying everybody's asking them, what are the Giants going to do? And I think the ones who are being most honest always get this kind of momentary look of panic in their eyes because they don't really know.
Right.
The best they can do is read tea leaves, and it's other people's tea. They're not really hearing anything from inside the building. So I'm just going to preface it with that. I think that Abdul Carter will be the pick, provided the Browns don't.
No.
Sorry, but I, if it makes you feel better, my sister went to Penn State, so yeah.
All right, there we go.
There's
There
at
we
least
go.
that soft spot there as well. And I felt the exact same way about Sean Lee and Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
That was those were rough. But provided the
Yeah.
Browns don't take Carter, I think the Giants do. Now
Okay.
there has been a notion creeping up lately that maybe the Giants could trade down a little bit. Carter did have all of a sudden a late workout with the New England Patriots, and he is going to be a top 3 pick, or almost certainly going to be a top 3 pick.
Right.
So I don't know if that is a just in case that, say, the Giants do take a quarterback at 3, or perhaps the Giants and the Patriots, they had a lot of discussions about a trade last year. It obviously didn't come to fruition. The Patriots wanted the moon, and the Giants did not have that to offer. Yeah, there have been those conversations between the Giants and the Patriots in the past. Maybe they have resumed or kept going, really. And it's possible that the Patriots really do covet Abdul Carter enough that they want to move up and get him.
Yeah.
Or, perhaps the Giants are actually looking at a quarterback at 3rd overall. John Mara did basically lay down a mandate that the Giants get a quarterback of the future, a future franchise quarterback. And they might not want to take a chance that the Saints or the Steelers or the Jets or whoever else might take one, and just take the guy they're looking at. Now, whoever that is, we can talk about that. But yeah, at least at 3rd overall, right now, if everything goes the way we think it will, it looks like it'll be Abdul Carter.
Yeah.
Or Travis Hunter, but it seems like the Browns are kind of focusing in on him.
Yeah, this number 3 overall pick for the Giants is going to be huge. Or even if they do drop back and gain some more assets for the future, this is a huge draft for this Giants team and the organization overall. I mean, there's a lot of talent that the Giants may be able to draft in a little over the week with the picks that they do have. So, as we were just talking about the day 1 pick, that first round pick, what they're going to do with it. Chris, I'm wondering what positions do you think they'll be honing in on during day 2 when they have 1 second-round pick and I believe 2 third-round picks, if I'm not mistaken. What do you think they're going to be doing on day 2?
I think that will depend on what happens at the second half of the first round, because right now the thinking is that the Giants very well could be looking at jumping back into the first round, maybe with a team like Atlanta or the Minnesota Vikings, who both of those 2 teams, they do not have many picks, and the Giants do have ammo to move back up. That 34th overall pick is valuable. They've got the 2 third-round picks, the one right at the top of the 3rd round, and then the compensatory pick that they got for letting Xavier McKinney and Saquon Barkley go in free agency. So they do have assets to move around if they so choose. Yeah. I think a lot of what we have been hearing and talking about is that they very well could take one of those 2 blue chip guys in the first round and then jump back in for a quarterback, a developmental quarterback, maybe Jackson Dart, maybe Jalen Milrow.
I was thinking Jalen Milrow, actually. Yeah, because I think Jalen Milrow is very, very under the radar coming into this
Yes.
draft.
Yeah. And with the two veteran quarterbacks they signed, they would have that extra year to develop a guy like that and have him take over in 26.
Yeah.
But at least as far as positions they could look at on the second round, depending on how many second round picks they have, I would say that the offensive and defensive lines, and I would say either a guard tackle prospect, which is most of the tackle prospects in this year's draft. A lot of them,
Yeah.
I think, are going to be sliding inside to guard this year, or a defensive tackle to play next to Dexter Lawrence, because this year's defensive tackle class is absurd. It is just
Yeah.
ridiculously deep and talented. And the Giants really could still always use talent along their offensive line. They were
Absolutely.
actually not bad before injuries started hitting. But then Andrew Thomas goes down. Jermaine Luminor winds up having to go from right guard to right tackle, out to left tackle. Had John Runyon Jr. and Greg Van Roten both go down at times. I think John Michael Schmitz might have missed some time. Evan Neal gets hurt the injury that he had at the end of 2023 lingered into the season, and then he finally comes. But given the age of some of their guys and the history, I definitely expect them to continue to add to the line on day two if they can. And
Yeah.
also, again, the defensive tackle. I do like what a lot of their depth players did. I'm in an extreme minority in the Giants sphere, but I do like what a lot of those depth guys did after Dexter Lawrence went down.
Yeah.
But there is a pretty big difference between Dexter Lawrence and Jordan Riley, DJ Davidson, those guys. So getting somebody else to run with Big Dex, yeah, Eagles fans, Giants fans, we all know what a good defensive line can do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see what they do on day two for sure. And again, folks, we're talking to Chris Pflum from bigblueview.com. Great content over there. You know, we love our SB Nation sites. And as we're moving along with the conversation here, Chris, you know, even after the draft, you know, some of these players, they're not going to be starters, of course, right out of the gate. We know this just for every NFL team. So with that being said, here's a two-part question for you about this Giants team heading into the summer and this upcoming season. The first being, what is the biggest strength on this Giants team heading into this season? Again, of course, the draft has not happened yet, but what is your diagnosis at this point of what the biggest strength is of this team heading into this season?
Okay. Even though I just got done talking about them needing to add more defensive linemen,
Right.
I would still say the defensive line is the greatest strength of the
Okay, there
team.
you go. Yep.
Yeah. And depending on how things go with Paulson and Debo and Javon Holland, I would spin that off to the defense as a whole. Yeah, I think the Giants' defense's biggest problem is that the offense has been an absolute albatross around its neck.
Yeah.
It just you cannot play very good defense if you're trying to haul around the 30th ranked offense for a couple years.
Right.
But yeah, Brandon Burns, Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, that's a solid foundation for a defense. Yeah, Dexter Lawrence is in the conversation for best defensive tackle in the NFL. And that's with respect to guys like Chris Jones, with the Philly guys, with the guys out in Los Angeles. Yeah, he is right there. And Brandon Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau, I don't know if they get quite as much respect, Tibbs especially, for how good and disruptive they can be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brandon Burns was, I believe, top 5 in ESPN's pass rush win rate. Thibodeau was in the top 15. And I don't know if you're familiar with Brandon Thorne. He is,
Not
I would
as
say,
much. No.
I would say he's probably one of the best, if not the best, independent defensive line analysts out there. And he has a thing he does where he breaks down trench play for every game every week. And he grades pass rushers and he grades them on, a coverage sack, a low quality sack, or a high quality sack, or a rare high quality sack. And their rate of producing those over their pass rush snaps. The Giants were the only team to have 3 players, Burns, Thibodeau, and Lawrence, in his top 30 for high quality sack rate.
Wow. Okay.
And Thibodeau was, I believe, top 5 in rare and high quality sack rate. So that's
Okay.
winning pass rushes in less than 2.5 seconds against a good tackle. So it's not waiting for the coverage to hold up and eventually working your way there. It's just like winning it on his own.
Right.
So I really think the Giants' biggest problems on the defensive side of the ball is the fact that their offense does not force the opposing offense to throw. And I think having those guys there is a solid foundation. And if Paulson Adebo and Javon Holland pan out, they've got Deontay Banks, who he has his own issues he needs to work out, particularly at the catch point. But the athletic traits are right there. Drew Phillips was fantastic in the slot last year, rookie out of Kentucky. Tyler Nubin, rookie safety out of Minnesota, he was very good as well. So they've got a really young secondary, but it could be a very good secondary. But again, it's
Okay.
contingent on the offense, which if you want
Right.
to flip that over to the weakness,
Yeah, let's do the 180 here and let's go what biggest weakness heading into
yeah,
this 2025 season.
I would say the offense, just in general, but that is really contingent on quarterback play.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, there's only so much you can do with Drew Lock and Tommy DeVito, and you know, really nothing against Daniel Jones, but he was a limited quarterback who limited the offense in a lot of ways. So the offense has been the Giants' weakness for years now. Really
Yep.
going back to, I would say, probably 2016. Really.
It's a while.
So yeah,
That's 9 years. Yes.
yeah, and even then, maybe even 2015.
Yeah.
It's been a long time, and it comes down to that quarterback position. If Russell Wilson, if he can be Russ and Russ can cook, Malik Neighbors is he has the potential to be special. Tyrone Tracy is a really good running back. Another one of your Penn State guys, Theo Johnson. He is an athletic freak. He shows
Yep.
some real upside. Like th- they've got they've got potential at the skill positions. It's just that offensive line depth and that quarterback play has to get where they need it to be.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. All right. Well, as we're moving along here, Chris, I was hoping we could really do some reflection on the Giants free agents that they brought in during this offseason as well. Again, 2 new quarterbacks. They've added talent to the offensive line, defensive backfield as well. What did you like, and also what did you not like about the Giants moves in free agency? I mean, you did talk about Joe Schoen, thinking he's doing a pretty productive job for this organization
Yeah.
and for the team thus far this season. But would you like and not like too much in terms of free agency?
Yeah, there wasn't much I really didn't like. You know, if they had gone the Aaron Rodgers route, that
Oh,
would have been one of it. Like
right. Yes.
you know, I that was the one move I really did not want them to make. I would have been
Right.
fine if they took a flyer on Justin Fields. I actually was fine if they had gone into 2025 with Jameis Winston as
Yeah.
their potential bridge quarterback. Yeah, I am I'm not going to say they fixed it with Russell Wilson because he is obviously on the downside of his career. We saw what happened at the end of the year with Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
but you know, with maybe a full off season, him not having to deal with an injury in training camp and all that, like getting all of those reps, we'll see what happens there. Overall, I think those were good, solid moves. You know, Jameis Winston, at the very least, will be entertaining, which,
Right.
given the way the Giants
Right.
offense has looked, we were just talking about it, entertaining isn't that is it's a
Not
low
bad.
bar, but
Right. Not
it's a
bad to have some entertainment.
yeah, yeah, it's a low bar, but be happy to clear it.
Right.
As far as some of the other moves, like those two young DBs, Adebo, and Holland, I like what those guys bring. Yeah, they're gamblers, which that's kind of okay with me because the upside of potentially producing turnovers is really great. And that's something the Giants haven't been very good at, particularly last year. Like I don't think they had their first or no, they had an interception to start the year. They didn't have a defensive back make an interception until, oh, I don't think it was until after the bye week
Okay.
last year. It was getting embarrassing, and that's saying something considering how their season went last year, that their DBs just couldn't get their hands on the football.
Right.
So, I think the potential upside of having a couple gamblers in the defensive backfield is definitely worth it. And also, adding like a Chauncey Golston, taking a guy away from the Cowboys, I think we can all agree that's a positive move.
Oh yeah, there you
Sun
go.
Tzu likes that one.
Yes.
And yeah, I think he could be, I don't want to say an upgrade over Aziz Ojolari, one of the newest Eagles. We you know, go down I-95 there.
Yep.
But I think he could at least be a side grade who presents more upside in run defense, which has kind of been a problem for the Giants on the edge there. So that I think helps. Then getting like Stone Forsythe, a couple of the other offensive linemen the Giants brought in, again, help improve the competition on the right side and maybe help out the depth, which has been a real problem for them. Yeah,
Yep.
I'd love
It
to
has.
see Joshua Zudu, Giants third round pick in 2022. He was supposed to be a guard. He is always supposed to be a guard. And anytime we see him, he's playing tackle, which is not his position at all. He did it in college at North Carolina, but he is not an NFL tackle. So
Yeah.
hopefully some of these depth players that Joe Schoen has brought in will kind of allow guys to play their more natural positions, which again, that would be a just an absolute positive for this team.
Yes. I definitely hear what you're saying. And as an Eagles fan, I'm hoping it doesn't come to fruition. But in terms of just being a football lover overall, again, another interesting storyline for sure with this Giants team, just in terms of how their free agents are going to end up impacting the team this season. So, again, folks, talking to Chris Pflum from bigblueview.com. Check out everything they have going on over there with regard to the New York Giants and some NFL writing as well. But to close us out here, Chris, it seems like this coming season is going to be a do or die year for head coach Brian Daboll. And frankly, I'm surprised he was able to keep his job after this past season, just given what the NFL is in
Yeah.
terms of how they get rid of and hire coaches at such a quick pace year after year. So, a two-part question for you here. Why do you think the front office kept him on board? And what does Brian Daboll need to do this season for the Giants to keep him on board as the head coach long term?
Yeah, I think the primary reason why not even the front office, John Mara kept Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen around is because he just didn't want to have that same turnover.
Yeah.
To have Ben McAdoo for 2 years, and then Pat Shermer for 2 years, and then Joe Judge for 2 years, and then have to get rid of Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll after 3 years. Like, the Giants crave stability. He desperately wants to get back to what
Right.
they had with Tom Coughlin and Jerry Reese, where the results may not have been there every single year, but they were always at least competitive,
Right. Right.
and they weren't constantly turning over and constantly changing schemes, and they were able to build and establish like a system. That's something the Giants haven't had since Tom Coughlin was fired,
Yeah.
way back after 2015. So that I think is why Brian Dable still has his job. Uh, I honestly think looking at the landscape of especially the NFL draft this year, I don't think this is a bad quarterback draft, but I do believe it's an unusual one and there's a lot more risk than
That's a good
is
point.
usual.
Yes.
Yeah, I think Jackson Dart or Jalen Milrow could be really good quarterbacks at the NFL level. But there's a pretty big discrepancy between the ceiling and the floor with them.
Right.
And to a certain extent, I think firing Shane and Dayball could have been a mercy after last year. Like
Yeah.
they could have talked about it, gone into interviews with other teams and talked about, hey, we weren't thrilled with being tied to Daniel Jones. We did it because we had to, but look, we put that escape hatch in his contract, and John, he just didn't want to give us the extra time.
Yeah.
But now they're kind of stuck with this class. I hate to say it, unfortunately, they beat the Indianapolis Colts and lost the right to draft Cam Ward, which I'm sure Eagles fans are thrilled with.
I'm happy with that. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Forcing them to go through with this and this year and trying to save their jobs was almost the cruelest move possible,
Yeah. Yep.
potentially. Now, as far as what they need to do to save their jobs, and Daboll in particular, you hear a lot about how the Giants have to win, and that is part of it. I don't know that getting to a winning record, especially since we've got the 17 game season, 500 records straight out, unless there's a tie, but that'd be weird. Yeah, I do think getting to like a 6-win season, but having the losses be competitive. If the Giants can make the Eagles and the Commanders work for it, beat the Cowboys, and make, say, the 49ers and playing the AFC West, make those teams work for it,
Yep.
and maybe pull out some wins against good competition. That I think could, or maybe even would, buy Daboll at least another year, maybe even 2. The other part of it, I think, is having those young guys take that step forward, have the free agent additions hit, have the secondary play up to its potential. Maybe have Tyrone Tracy take another step forward. Get something out of Jalen Hyatt at wide
Yeah.
receiver. That would be fantastic.
Right.
It maybe even have Evan Neal look like a consistently competent starting offensive lineman. Yeah, all of that together, I think, would definitely go a long way to making John Mara happy. I think more than anything, he just wants to see the team take a step in the right direction and start looking like a team that can be building for the next 5 years.
Yeah, it is really going to be interesting to see where this Giants team goes here in 2025. Of course, with the draft next week and then the season, we got training camp. I feel like that's going to be here before we know it.
Oh yeah,
but it's been a great conversation, a great discussion with you, Chris. And real quick for folks who are listening to us, watching us on YouTube as well, want to make sure that you follow the Philadelphia Sports Table Podcast Show, my co-hosts and myself on various social media sites. We are on Instagram. We're also on Twitter/X. I am over on TikTok as well. Our Facebook page, Threads, and of course, Blue Sky, where you can follow us. Just search out the Philadelphia Sports Table. You can search out myself as well. And again, folks, we have been talking to Chris Pflum from BigBlueView.com. Buddy, it was great talking to you. Thank you so much for taking the time. That it was a great time. I'm looking forward to talking to you some point down the road.
Yeah, maybe after the draft.
Sounds good, my friend.